The day began like any other, with the hum of daily life echoing through the streets of Earth. People went about their usual routines, unaware that something extraordinary was about to unfold. In a small, quiet corner of the world, scientists were busy with their work, military personnel trained in their stations, and leaders attended meetings. No one could have predicted that, at that very moment, the fate of the entire planet would be changed. It started with a signal, a faint whisper that reached Earth's deepest space observatories. At first, it was so weak that no one took it seriously. The message seemed to be a mistake, or perhaps a glitch in the equipment. However, after further analysis, it became clear that this was no ordinary transmission. The signal, though weak, was coded with advanced technology that Earth's experts had never seen before. It was a message, and it wasn't from any known source. The signal, though faint, carried a sense of urgency. "We need your help," it said. The words were simple, but the message behind them was anything but. The aliens, as the experts quickly began calling them, described a terrible danger that was heading toward their world. They spoke of a force far greater than anything Earth had ever encountered, something that threatened to destroy them all. And in their desperation, they turned to Earth, believing that only human strength could save them. The message made one thing very clear: time was running out. Back on Earth, the news spread quickly. At first, the message was met with disbelief. Leaders and scientists alike struggled to understand what they were hearing. How could this be possible? Who were these beings? And why was Earth being called to help? There were no answers, only questions. Some feared that the message might be a trap, a ruse to lure humanity into a dangerous situation. Others were more curious than scared, wondering what these aliens could possibly want from them. A meeting was called in the United Nations, bringing together representatives from every corner of the world. The room was filled with tension as the world's top experts, military leaders, and diplomats gathered around a long table. For hours, they debated what to do. Some argued that Earth should send a response and offer help. Others believed that Earth should remain cautious and not get involved in something that might be dangerous. The fear of the unknown gripped the leaders, but the message was clear: they needed to make a decision. The debate continued for hours, with voices rising in disagreement. Some countries were more eager to act, while others held back, unwilling to take the risk. At last, it was the world's military leaders who made the call. They decided that Earth would respond, but only after careful preparation. If the aliens were truly in danger, it would be their duty to help, but only on Earth's terms. The decision was made. A fleet of ships would be sent to investigate the alien world and offer assistance if the situation proved to be as dire as the message suggested. As Earth's leaders scrambled to prepare the fleet, people around the world watched anxiously. News outlets were filled with stories of the mysterious message, and speculation ran wild. What was this alien world like? What kind of threat could possibly require Earth's help? Would humanity be able to face whatever danger lay ahead? In the quiet of the night, a sense of nervous excitement hung in the air. The fleet, made up of the finest ships and crews from Earth's various nations, was prepared for launch. It was a historic moment. For the first time, humanity was sending its best into the unknown, reaching out to help the species they had never met, in a galaxy they had never explored. As the fleet prepared to depart, there were still many unanswered questions. The aliens had not given much information about themselves or their planet. They spoke only of a great danger, one that they could not face alone. Earth's leaders were cautious but determined. They knew that this was a moment in history, one that could change the course of humanity's future forever. It could be a step toward building a new alliance with an alien species, or it could lead to disaster. No one knew for sure what awaited them. At the same time, there was a growing sense of hope. This was Earth's moment to prove that, when needed, humanity could rise to the challenge. The message from the aliens had been a cry for help, and Earth had answered. The fleet would soon leave Earth's atmosphere, traveling through the vast expanse of space toward the unknown. Everyone on Earth was watching, waiting for news. What would happen next? Would they find the aliens in danger, or would this mission turn into a nightmare? As the ships began their journey, the weight of the decision settled over the people of Earth. The planet had chosen to act, to send its best into the unknown to help those in need. But the question remained, had they made the right choice? Would the mission be successful, or had Earth just stepped into a greater danger than anyone could have imagined? The clock was ticking, and the fleet was on its way. But no one could have known how far-reaching the consequences of this decision would be. The call for help had been answered, but the real story was only just beginning. Earth's decision to respond to the mysterious call for help had been made, but now the true challenge began. The leaders of the world, having come together in a rare show of unity, watched as the fleet was prepared. A mix of excitement and uncertainty filled the air. In every country, every city, people were glued to their screens, waiting for updates. News outlets buzzed with speculation, and social media exploded with discussions. The question on everyone's mind was the same. Could Earth truly help these strangers from another world? As the days passed, the preparations for the journey intensified. The fleet was no small feat. It consisted of the most advanced spacecraft Earth had ever built, each one equipped with the latest technology and designed to withstand the dangers of deep space. There were scientists, engineers, military personnel, and diplomats, all carefully chosen to be part of this historic mission. They were to travel across the galaxy to a world none of them had ever seen, to help a species they knew nothing about. The team was nervous but resolute. They had been trained for many situations, but nothing could truly prepare them for the unknown. What kind of civilization would they find on the other end of the transmission? What did the alien species truly need? The message had been clear in its request for help, but it offered very little in the way of details, and this left Earth's leaders with only one option: to proceed cautiously, but with purpose. The world's scientists and experts had been working non-stop to decode the alien message and understand the best way to approach this mission. The message itself contained complex data, but one thing was certain: Earth had to respond quickly. Every moment wasted could mean the difference between success and failure, life and death. The alien race had been clear in their plea. They needed Earth's assistance, but the situation was urgent. There was no time to waste. As the launch date approached, the sense of anticipation grew. The world's eyes were on the fleet, and everyone was wondering the same thing: would Earth succeed in its mission? The leaders of the fleet gathered for a final meeting before departure. The atmosphere was tense, but there was a shared understanding among them. This was a mission that required not just intelligence and skill, but heart. It was about more than just exploring the unknown. It was about helping those in need. The mission commander, a seasoned veteran with years of space travel experience, stood before the group. He addressed the crew, his voice steady but carrying the weight of the moment. "We're about to embark on something no one has ever done before," he said. "We are the first humans to be called upon by another species, and it's our duty to respond. We don't know what lies ahead, but we have to trust in our training, in each other, and in the decision we've made. Our mission is simple: help them, and make sure we return safely." The crew nodded, their faces filled with determination. It wasn't just the soldiers or the scientists. It was everyone. Each member of the team had a role to play, and they knew how important their work would be. They would not only represent Earth, but humanity as a whole. The responsibility weighed heavily on their shoulders, but they were ready. As the final preparations were made, the fleet began to lift off from Earth's surface, the engines of the spacecraft rumbling as they ascended into space. The view from the control room was breathtaking. Earth, with its blue oceans and green continents, slowly shrinking as the fleet sped farther away from home. There was a sense of awe in the air, mixed with the anticipation of the journey ahead. But there was also something else: fear, a fear of the unknown. The journey would take several weeks, and during that time, the crew spent their days in a routine of training, research, and strategy. The unknown stretched out before them, a vast expanse of dark, silent space. The mission commander kept the crew focused on their goal: help the aliens, learn from the experience, and return home safely. Each day, the crew communicated with Earth, sending updates back to the planet they had left behind. The people of Earth watched anxiously, hanging on every word. News outlets reported on the mission's progress, and social media buzzed with excitement and concern. Every small update was met with eager anticipation. Had the fleet encountered anything unusual? Were they getting closer to their destination? The world was holding its breath, waiting for news. The fleet moved steadily through space, and the crew grew more accustomed to the vastness surrounding them. Time moved slowly in the emptiness of space, but the crew kept their focus. They had their mission, and they had each other. They knew that when they arrived, they would face whatever awaited them with everything they had. But the closer they came to the alien world, the more questions lingered in their minds. What would they find? And would they be able to help in time? As the days passed, the alien world slowly came into view, a distant speck of light growing larger in the distance. The crew braced themselves, knowing that the moment of truth was drawing near. They had made it this far, but what lay ahead was still unknown. There was no turning back now. The fleet continued its journey, each member of the crew aware that they were part of something much bigger than themselves. They had answered a call for help, and now it was time to see what kind of future awaited them on the other side of the stars. The aliens had asked for help, and Earth had responded. But the real question remained: would Earth's strength be enough to make a difference in a world far beyond their own? The journey to the alien world felt like an eternity. Days turned into weeks as the fleet sailed through the emptiness of space, the vastness stretching endlessly before them. The crew had grown used to the hum of the engines and the routine of their daily tasks. But no matter how many days passed, the sense of anticipation never wavered. They had been chosen for this mission, and they all felt the weight of their responsibility. The vastness of space had a way of making even the most experienced travelers feel small. The stars around them seemed so distant, each one a reminder of just how far from home they had traveled. Yet it was the quiet that made the journey most unsettling. Space, in its infinite stillness, held a sense of mystery, and that mystery made every creak and hum of the ship seem louder, more significant. Inside the fleet's lead ship, Commander Elisa Hayes watched the alien world draw closer on the massive screen in front of her. Her eyes, sharp and calculating, studied the data pouring in from the ship's sensors. The planet was beautiful, a swirl of colors and patterns that suggested life was abundant there. From the information gathered from the alien message, they knew that the world was a lush green place with vast forests, wide rivers, and towering mountains. It looked like a paradise. But beneath its beauty, a danger lurked, one that had been enough to drive the aliens to call for help from a distant world. The closer they got, the more the crew felt the weight of the unknown pressing on them. They had trained for this. They had prepared for every scenario imaginable. But this was something different. They were stepping into a world that had already faced a threat, a force beyond their comprehension. What kind of enemy could make an entire species so desperate for help? The unknown was always the most dangerous part of any mission, and this was no exception. As the fleet entered the atmosphere of the alien world, a sense of awe swept through the crew. For many of them, this was the first time they had ever seen another planet up close. They marveled at the beauty of it. The way the sun bathed the landscape in golden light, the soft clouds drifting across the sky, the lush greenery stretching as far as the eye could see. But beneath the beauty, they all knew that this peaceful scene could be deceiving. The calm before the storm, perhaps. Commander Hayes stood in front of the communication station, speaking with the head scientist, Dr. Matteo, who was overseeing the mission's research. They had already begun scanning the planet's surface for signs of the alien species, but there was still much to learn. Their sensors had detected unusual activity, something that didn't belong. It was subtle, but it was there, and they couldn't ignore it. "Do you think they've been hiding the truth from us?" Commander Hayes asked, her voice calm, but with an edge of concern. Dr. Matteo shook his head slowly. "I don't think so. The message we received was urgent, but it didn't give us much to work with. It's possible that they didn't fully understand the danger themselves. Maybe they haven't been able to identify it yet." He paused for a moment, then added, "We need to be cautious. If they truly are facing something powerful, we could be walking into a situation far worse than we imagine." The crew knew this, but none of them were prepared for what happened next. As they descended closer to the surface, strange signals began to fill their communication channels. The aliens had warned them of possible interference, but nothing could have prepared them for the barrage of confusing data that suddenly flooded their systems. The alien signals were everywhere, echoing in their systems, making it difficult to tell what was real and what was not. Commander Hayes ordered the ship's engineers to isolate the interference. They worked furiously, but every time they made a breakthrough, more signals appeared. There was something deeply unsettling about it, as if the planet itself was alive, responding to their presence. The crew couldn't help but wonder, was this an effect of the threat the aliens had mentioned, or was it something else entirely? Minutes turned to hours, and as the fleet finally made its way to the surface, the sense of unease had only deepened. The alien world, so beautiful from above, now appeared even more mysterious up close. The lush forests, the sparkling rivers, and the tall mountains all seemed to watch them with an eerie stillness. The planet was silent, almost as if it were waiting for them to make the first move. On the surface, the fleet landed in a clearing. The ground was soft, the air fresh, but there was no sign of the aliens who had called for help. Commander Hayes and her team stepped out of the ships, their boots crunching on the soft earth as they looked around. They had prepared for an encounter, but what they found was nothing like they expected. There were no alien ambassadors waiting to greet them, no signs of life, just an unsettling silence that hung in the air, thick with the weight of the unknown. The crew spread out, scanning the area for any signs of the alien species. Everything seemed peaceful, too peaceful. It was as if the planet was waiting for something, and that something was just beyond the horizon. But what? The question burned in their minds as they moved forward, each step feeling heavier than the last. As they walked deeper into the forest, the silence grew more oppressive. The only sound was the crunching of leaves beneath their feet. There were no animals, no birds, no insects. The world around them seemed almost empty. It was then that they realized something was terribly wrong. The aliens had asked for help, but they hadn't told them everything. And the more they explored, the more the sense of danger grew. Commander Hayes stopped and looked around. She knew that something wasn't right. They had come here to help, but they were walking into the unknown, a place where nothing made sense. The weight of the situation pressed on her, and she couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, as if the planet itself was aware of their every move. But by whom? Or what? The team gathered closer, each one feeling the same unease. They were no longer certain that they were here to help. They were beginning to wonder if they were the ones in need of saving. What kind of force could have left this world in such a state of stillness? And was Earth truly prepared to face it? The answers, they knew, were just ahead. But the truth could be far more complicated and far more dangerous than any of them had imagined. The deeper the crew ventured into the alien world, the more they began to realize how little they truly understood about the situation they had walked into. The landscape, once beautiful and inviting from a distance, now felt foreign and ominous up close. The air was thick with a strange energy, and the trees, though vibrant with life, seemed to stand as silent sentinels, watching their every move. It was as if the world itself was holding its breath. Commander Hayes and her team had not expected to find nothing. They had expected to meet the alien race they had come to assist, to find them waiting for help. But instead, they found only emptiness. No communication from the aliens. No sign of life. Just an unsettling silence that hung over everything. The strange signals they had received before landing had stopped, leaving them with nothing but the overwhelming quiet of the alien world. As the team set up camp in the heart of the forest, there was an underlying tension. They were prepared for many things, but not this. An absence, a stillness that could not be explained. The members of the crew spoke in hushed tones, their eyes constantly scanning their surroundings. Something wasn't right. There were no visible signs of life, yet they felt an unmistakable presence. They were not alone. The communications officer, Lieutenant Ava Michaels, sat at the camp center, trying to re-establish contact with the fleet. She worked tirelessly, adjusting frequencies and rerouting signals, but every attempt to contact Earth or the alien species proved fruitless. It was as if their technology was being blocked by an unseen force. Ava could feel the frustration growing within her, but she kept it under control. There was no time to waste on doubts. The team had to stay focused. Commander Hayes, aware of the growing tension among her crew, decided it was time to explore further. "We need to find the aliens," she said firmly. "They've asked for our help, and we've come. We won't leave until we understand what's going on here." The crew nodded, knowing their mission was far from over. They had come to offer assistance, and they would find a way to do so, no matter the challenges ahead. The team set off again, this time moving cautiously through the forest. The dense trees made the path difficult to follow, and the air grew thicker the deeper they went. It felt as if the very atmosphere had changed, as though something unseen was pushing them forward, urging them to continue despite the overwhelming sense of unease. Hours passed as they navigated through the forest, and still there was no sign of the aliens. No signs of any kind of civilization, no cities, no structures. It was as though they had stepped into a world untouched by any species. But the crew knew that wasn't the case. The alien species had reached out to Earth for help, so they had to exist somewhere on this planet. They had to be here. Suddenly, Lieutenant Michaels, who was walking ahead, stopped in her tracks. Her hand went up, signaling the others to halt. The air around them seemed to hum with a strange energy, and in the distance, they could hear a soft, rhythmic sound, almost like a low murmur. It was faint, but it was there. Commander Hayes motioned for the crew to gather around her. "What is that sound?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "I'm not sure," Michaels replied, her brow furrowed. "It's not like anything we've encountered before. It's different." The sound grew louder, and with it, the feeling of being watched intensified. Every member of the crew felt it, the hair on the back of their necks standing on end, the pressure in the air making it harder to breathe. The planet, it seemed, was coming alive around them, responding to their presence. The sound seemed to come from a clearing ahead, so Commander Hayes made a decision. "Let's approach cautiously," she said. "Stay alert and keep your communication lines open." They moved toward the source of the sound, their steps slow and deliberate. As they reached the edge of the clearing, they stopped. In front of them, the landscape changed. The lush greenery gave way to a vast expanse of stone, like an ancient ruin carved into the planet itself. Strange markings covered the stone, glowing faintly with an eerie light. It was here that they saw it, shadows flickering in the corner of their eyes. At first, they thought it was just a trick of the light, but as they looked closer, they realized the shadows weren't just moving. They were alive, ethereal figures shifting between the stone and the trees, watching them. These were not the aliens they had expected. These were something else entirely. The figures did not speak, nor did they approach. They simply watched, their glowing eyes reflecting the faint light from the stone. The crew stood motionless, unsure of what to do. The figures, though not hostile, exuded an aura of power. Their presence was overwhelming, as if they were the true inhabitants of the planet, and the aliens who had called for help were merely visitors. After what felt like an eternity, one of the figures moved. It didn't walk as humans did, but instead drifted across the ground, its movements fluid and graceful. The figure stopped in front of the crew, and for a moment, the world seemed to hold its breath. Commander Hayes stepped forward, her heart racing. She wasn't sure what to expect, but she knew they had to communicate. "Are you the ones who called for help?" she asked, her voice steady despite the uncertainty gripping her. The figure did not respond. Instead, it raised its hand, and a soft glow emanated from its palm. The energy from the glow seemed to fill the air, and the ground beneath their feet seemed to pulse with life. It was then that Commander Hayes realized these beings were not the aliens who had contacted Earth. They were something older, something far more powerful. They were the guardians of this world, and they had been waiting for the crew to arrive. As the light grew brighter, Commander Hayes felt a wave of understanding wash over her. The message that had been sent to Earth was not just a call for help. It was a plea for the restoration of balance. The aliens were not the only ones in danger. This planet, too, was at risk, and Earth's role in the galaxy was far greater than they had ever imagined. The figure's presence was a reminder of just how little the crew knew. They had come to help, but now they realized that they might be the ones in need of guidance. The question was no longer simply how they could help the aliens. It was how they could restore the balance of the planet itself. The journey ahead would be even more complicated than they had ever anticipated, but now they understood that the stakes were higher than they had ever realized. The alien race that had called for help was in danger, but so too was the entire planet. And Earth's involvement in this unfolding mystery had only just begun. The glowing figure stood silently, its light flickering softly like a candle in the wind. Commander Hayes kept her gaze steady, trying to understand the strange message it had shared, an unspoken feeling that had entered her mind like a dream. No words had been spoken, yet she could feel something important had been passed to her, something bigger than what they had imagined. The rest of the crew watched in quiet awe. None of them moved. The presence of these glowing beings was calming but powerful. There was no threat, yet everyone felt the deep responsibility that came with their appearance. It was as if the beings had seen everything, Earth's past, its growth, its struggles, and had chosen this moment to connect. Lieutenant Michaels slowly approached Commander Hayes and whispered, "I think they're trying to show us something." Commander Hayes nodded. "I felt it too, not with words, but with something deeper." Suddenly, the glowing figure raised its hand again. A beam of light shot up into the sky, not harsh or bright, but soft like moonlight. It spread across the clearing, forming shapes in the air. Everyone watched as the light created a moving picture, like a memory or a vision. In the vision, they saw another species, small, fragile-looking creatures with wide, intelligent eyes. These were the ones who had sent the original message to Earth. The crew watched as the beings built quiet homes and gardens across the surface of the planet. They lived peacefully, in balance with nature. But then something shifted. Dark clouds formed above the images, and strange machines appeared, towering and strange, not from Earth and not from this planet. The peaceful beings tried to defend themselves, not with weapons, but with shields of light and energy. But they were pushed back, and their gardens turned to ruins. The vision ended with the peaceful creatures sending a signal into space, the same signal that had reached Earth. Lieutenant Michaels whispered again. They didn't want war. They just wanted help. The glowing figure lowered its hand. The light faded slowly, and the forest returned to its quiet hum. Commander Hayes looked around at her team. The message was clear now. The ones who had asked for help were still out there, hiding or trapped. And this planet, which had once welcomed them, was slowly losing its harmony. A low hum returned in the air, different from before. This time, it seemed like a path. The ground beneath their feet began to glow with small lights, forming a gentle trail through the trees. "They want us to follow," Commander Hayes said softly. The crew moved forward, following the path of light. It wound through the forest, past tall trees that shimmered as they passed. The deeper they went, the warmer the air became. Strange flowers opened as they walked by, as if welcoming them. It felt like the planet itself was guiding them now. Hours passed, and the sky darkened slightly, though no stars could be seen. The path led them to a hill, where the trees opened into a wide valley. What they saw below made everyone stop in awe. There, hidden by the landscape, was a city. Not a city made of metal or stone, but of crystal and living light. The buildings seemed to grow out of the ground, shaped like trees and flowers, glowing gently in the dim light. It looked like a dream, a place untouched by time. But the city was quiet. No one moved in its streets. No voices, no footsteps, only the soft sound of wind. Commander Hayes stepped forward, slowly moving down the path toward the city. As she did, the ground lit up again, responding to her presence. The crew followed in silence, their hearts filled with wonder and questions. Inside the city, they saw signs of recent life. Small lights still glowing in homes, gentle music playing in the air, as if someone had just been there. But no one came out to greet them. Then, a soft voice spoke, not through sound, but directly into their minds. You have come, just in time. The voice was calm, almost musical. It came from everywhere and nowhere. The crew looked around, trying to find the source, but saw only the glowing city. We were hidden to protect the last hope of peace. The balance of this world is falling. The energy is fading, but you have brought something new. Commander Hayes stood still, trying to respond with her thoughts. What can we do to help? There was a pause, then the voice returned. You must restore the light. The balance lies in understanding, not control. The force that broke this peace still lingers, but it cannot survive where harmony is strong. The message ended, but the meaning stayed in their minds like a melody. They were not here to fight or to take. They were here to listen, to learn, and to help restore the gentle balance that had once existed on this planet. The glowing path returned again, leading them deeper into the city. The journey was far from over, but now they had direction and a purpose greater than they had imagined. Earth had answered a call for help, but now it was clear. The true mission was to bring light, understanding, and balance back to a world that had nearly forgotten peace. The city of crystal and light shimmered with quiet energy as the crew walked through its heart. Every step revealed more wonders, walls that hummed with gentle tones, paths that glowed in response to thought, and strange floating shapes that moved with purpose, yet vanished when approached. Despite the silence, the city felt alive, like it had been waiting for someone to return. Commander Hayes led the group deeper, her mind still echoing with the message from the unseen voice. The others followed, quietly taking in their surroundings. Each person felt something they couldn't quite explain, a sense of calm, but also the weight of responsibility. As they reached a central garden filled with glowing plants and water flowing through crystal channels, a soft light began to form in the air. Slowly, it shaped itself into a figure, not physical like them, but made of pure light. It hovered gently above the ground and seemed to look directly into each person's eyes. It spoke, not with sound, but with presence. We are the keepers. We do not rule this world. We care for its balance. Commander Hayes took a step forward, heart steady. Why was Earth called? Why now? The figure glowed brighter. Long ago, a gentle people came here seeking peace. We welcomed them. In time, they grew strong in spirit. But a shadow followed them, a hunger to control, not understand. That shadow disturbed the harmony. Lieutenant Michaels spoke quietly. Was the shadow a force or a group? The keeper responded without hesitation. It was a way of thinking, one that spreads without noise. It pulls life away from balance. It comes when harmony is forgotten. The crew listened, feeling the truth of those words settle within them. Earth had struggled with the same thing for centuries. Division, pride, the desire to control without care. Commander Hayes asked the question that had been growing in her mind. What do you need us to do? The keeper moved toward a tree at the center of the garden. Its roots wrapped around glowing stones, and its leaves sparkled like stars. The figure gently touched one of the stones, and the ground beneath them shifted. The crew watched as the floor below turned transparent, revealing a chamber deep underground. Inside, a pulsing core of light floated in the center of a stone circle. Cracks ran through it, and small threads of dark energy circled its surface. This is the heart of balance, the keeper explained. It connects all life here. When the visitors came, they added their energy. But when the shadow followed, it brought confusion and fear. The heart was damaged, not by attack, but by imbalance. Ava, the communications officer, looked at the keeper. Can it be repaired? Yes, came the answer. But not by us. We are part of this world. The heart needs energy from those outside it, pure, willing, and peaceful. Earth's spirit is changing. You bring a new kind of energy. Not perfect, but honest. The crew stood in thoughtful silence. Each of them understood what this meant. They had come to help others, thinking their strength was needed. But the real strength wasn't in tools or machines. It was in choice, in intention, in the quiet desire to do what was right. The keeper reached out with light, touching the air above their heads. A single beam reached out to each member of the crew, and a soft glow appeared over their hearts. You must share your light, not all at once. Slowly, together. This is not a task of one. It is a journey of many. A pathway appeared beside the garden, leading down into the heart chamber. Commander Hayes turned to her crew. This is why we came. Not just to answer a call, but to become part of something greater. They walked the path without fear. The chamber was warm and peaceful, filled with quiet sounds like distant winds and whispering leaves. The heart of balance floated before them, its cracks gently pulsing. One by one, each crew member stepped forward and placed a hand near the heart. They didn't touch it. They just let their presence connect. With each person, the light grew steadier. The dark threads began to loosen, drifting away like smoke in the wind. When the last person stepped back, the heart glowed a soft gold. The room filled with a gentle vibration that moved through their feet and up through their chests. The keeper appeared once more, brighter now. It has begun. Balance can return, but it will take time. You are now part of this world's story, and it is part of yours. As the crew exited the chamber, the city above seemed to change. Lights brightened. Faint music drifted through the air again. And in the distance, soft figures began to appear, some small and round-eyed, the gentle people they had seen in the vision. They were coming out of hiding. Lieutenant Michael smiled. They're still here. They survived. Commander Hayes nodded. And now, they can begin again. The world had not been saved in a single act, but a new beginning had been made, not by force or control, but by understanding and unity. The mission they had accepted was changing them, and Earth itself would change too, when they returned home with this story of peace, hope, and connection. The gentle people of the hidden city slowly stepped into the soft light, their eyes wide with wonder as they gazed at the Earth crew. They moved gracefully, their movements like flowing water, full of trust and quiet strength. Though they did not speak in words, their eyes carried stories of waiting, of patience, of hope that never faded. The crew stood silently, allowing the moment to settle in. No one rushed. No one gave orders. This was not a moment for commands, but for connection. The people of this world had survived not through power, but through unity with their home. And now they welcomed the visitors not as saviors, but as new friends. Commander Hayes stepped forward and gently bowed her head. The nearest of the gentle beings mirrored the gesture, placing a glowing hand over their chest. The gesture was returned by every crew member. In that moment, no translator was needed. Understanding passed between them like light through crystal. The Keeper of Light appeared once again, brighter and calmer than before. It stood beside the Heart of Balance, which now pulsed with steady golden energy. The cracks were still there, faint but healing, like old memories being rewritten. Balance is not perfection, the Keeper said without sound. It is the choice to listen, to care, and to remain in harmony even when the world shifts. The crew gathered around the heart one final time. The Keeper lifted a hand, and a new shape began to form beside it. An orb of gentle blue light, slowly spinning like a small world. It floated toward Commander Hayes and stopped in front of her. "This is your part of the story," the Keeper explained. "It holds the memory of your presence, your choices, and your light. Take it with you, and let others feel what was felt here." Hayes reached out carefully. As her fingers touched the orb, a quiet warmth spread through her hand and up her arm. She closed her eyes and felt a rush of emotion, not her own, but shared. She felt the stillness of the forest, the pain of lost balance, the fear that had once filled the city, and then the steady rise of peace as the crew joined their light with the heart. The orb gently sank into a small case, which closed like a flower folding its petals. She turned and handed it to Ava, who smiled, understanding that this memory would be carried home not only in data, but in feeling. As the sun rose over the crystal trees, the city lit up fully for the first time. Its towers reflected the sky, its paths shimmered with joy, and its people moved without fear. The Earth crew stood at the edge of the garden, ready to leave, but not ready to forget. Lieutenant Michaels looked up. "Do you think we'll ever see this place again?" Commander Hayes answered softly, "Maybe not with our eyes, but something tells me this place will live with us, and maybe one day we'll feel it again in how we treat others, how we listen, how we live." They returned to their ship through the glowing path. The ship, still resting on the edge of the forest, looked different now. Not in shape, but in purpose. It had come carrying strength. It would leave carrying peace. Before they left the planet's atmosphere, the crew gathered one last time in the observation room. The gentle world spun below them, full of light and silence, and though they had not changed the world with force, they had done something far more powerful. They had listened, they had connected, and they had become part of something far greater than a mission. A soft message was sent to Earth, not just in words or images, but through the orb, which now sat in the center of the room. When Earth received it, they too would feel the memory, the harmony, the silent music of a place that had healed not through power, but through understanding. As the ship turned toward home, the stars welcomed them back like old friends. And though their journey would be long, the crew knew something had shifted within them. Earth had answered a call, yes, but in doing so, Earth had also been answered. And now, a new kind of light would return with them, a light that didn't shine by force, but by choice. And somewhere, deep in the peaceful city, the heart of balance pulsed once more, steady, calm, and bright.